That was a great presentation on immigration. One of the things that's very impressive was, remember earlier, like when we all went to the airport, all over the nation, you know, and Trump immediately responded, okay? Now, one can argue that the response was not all that good, you know, for different things, but they responded right away. And the reason for that is because we all went down, shut down the airport, LAX, but you know what? We went there because of the people coming, right? But you know what also we accidentally did? In the belly of those passenger planes, 50% of all air cargo comes in to LA. They didn't like that. They thought, oh my God, what are they doing? That's $200 million a day they're shutting down. Okay? So along with Century Air Cargo and Imperial Air Cargo, you stop that, and the people upstairs, they don't care for it. You know, so that's electoral power. Right now, that kind of thing is economic power. So we need both economic and electoral power. So without any kind of more ado, I want to introduce Kenneth. You want to come on up here, Kenneth? Kenneth grew up in the district, here, 34th Congressional District. You know, it's about 900,000 people here, and only about 140,000 voted. And I might add that in 2016, Congressional District 34 was the only CD where Bernie won over Hillary. Okay? 49,000 to 45,000. Not by much, but very significant. 65% Latino, about 20% Asian, 9% African American, and 4%, you know, others. Okay. So one of the things that we've told Kenneth is that there's going to be a lot of folks talking about various issues that are very, very important, not just to Asian Pacific Islanders, but to all people. And the question is, Kenneth, if you were to become a congressperson, what would you do to address those things nationally? Okay?
Thank you, David. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? I'll do like a little quick introduction. My name is Kenneth Mejia. I'm 27 years old. And our campaign, I made history last June, being the youngest to make it to the general election, the first Filipino, and also the first third-party Green candidate to make it this far. So that's a little nutshell about who I am. I'm a community organizer. I organize with the LA Tenants Union, where we fight to put tenants to have the right in their homes. You know, many are getting evicted, getting large rent increases, and gentrification is displacing the community. So I do a lot of work with the LA Tenants Union. We can make a difference, where we've serviced over maybe 3,000 homeless people over the past 2.5 years. I'm also a board member on the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council. And I'm also a certified public accountant. That's sort of my day job. I still work 8 to 6 every day. So if you could imagine how we made it this far, it's not because of just me. It's because it's 200 times of myself, students, workers, seniors, helping across the board to get it this far. So, so it's a huge feat, and I'm very glad and gracious to be here. I'm also so a member of Woodpana as well, and we're sort of pushing for a big revolutionary agenda, right? In 2016, raise your hand if you were involved heavily with the Bernie campaign or whatnot, right? And so if you think about it, many of us started to get really active, really involved in 2016, and that's sort of when I started to run. I ran as a Democrat when I was for Congress, when Bernie ran, and I got to talk to Bernie in that year and got advice from him. And what he told me was, you got to feel the pain in the community. You have to go out and talk to people, talk to working moms, talk to prisoners, talk to ex-gang members. You know, why did they do this? Why did they do that? And I took that to heart, because I'm from a single immigrant mom from the Philippines, and she basically worked her ass off to get us to where we wanted to be, right? Education was like the biggest thing for Asian culture, so that was the biggest thing for her. And so, growing up and seeing her struggle, taking care of 4 kids, and then putting me through school. I graduated college at 20 in 2.5 years. I worked at Ernst & Young, then at a financial service firm. I was making 6 figures when I was 25, and then Bernie ran for office, and then I realized, like, this is not enough. Like, what good is it to me if I could travel the world, if I could go clubbing every weekend, if I could do this if my neighbors can't? And so, you know, I took that to heart, because what we got to realize, especially as API, is our parents, and many of you out here who raised your kids, you taught us to care for family, to care for one another. And so that's sort of what we did with this campaign. And we started pushing a lot of huge agenda platforms that people consider radical, but are actually realities in other countries. So our platform are things like single-payer healthcare, right? That's good, right? Things like making housing a human right, fighting for universal rent control, there's going to be a lot of that. So you know, universal rent control. What David said earlier, part of our platform includes a nationalized social housing program like Vienna. And in Vienna, housing is a human right, and it just makes no sense how the richest and the most advanced nation in the world cannot provide housing as a human right. And so in LA, there are 53,000 people homeless right now, living on the streets. And so, you know, in addition to our platform includes tuition-free public college, also includes cancellation of student debt. Right now, there's you're gonna keep going and going. We're canceling student debt. There's $1.5 trillion of outstanding student debt. It increased by, you know, it's 1.2 trillion just a year ago. Just think about it, how insane it just rose. 100% clean renewable energy is also a big part of our platform. So, you know, as a green, that's like the biggest thing, right? As a green. So that's that. We're also fighting for things like ranked choice voting. Things like proportional representation, so that you're not afraid to vote for someone like me, in case you're scared that, you know, maybe a Republican will get elected or whatnot. And, you know, things like 4 months paid family medical leave is also a big push on our platform as well. And so, you know, I could go on and on about our awesome, bold platform, but the truth is, we're still far away. You know, we have a lot of work to do, and that's what our campaign is aiming to push. Many of us in our campaign, we're not polished politicians or whatnot, but we are activists and we are community organizers. And one thing, you know, like Dr. Song said earlier, is what's lacking a lot in all these policies for, you know, say single payer or even rent control is political will. And just imagine if all, you know, Democratic Congress members posted about single payer every day, or posted about Prop 10 every day. Think about how much of an effect that will be in organizing the movement and the community on the ground. And as a community organizer, that's what I do. Last week, we had a vote for the largest neighborhood council on whether we should endorse Prop 10, which would repeal Costa-Hawkins and enact single payer. It would enact rent control, or give cities the option to enact rent control. There was a lot of heavy opposition, but, you know, as a community organizer, we brought out people from Koreatown like Jane, people from community organizations like Kiwa, who came and talked to the board and let them know how much we needed rent control. And we ended up passing as the largest neighborhood council to endorse Prop 10. So we're going to be going to Mayor Garcetti. During a live session in City Council, and we're going to present to him and tell him, hey, we need this. And so, you know, there's just many things. There's that, and there's also the fact that our campaign and many of our members are helped stop the 80% rent increase and displacement in Boyle Heights. That was community organizers. That was people on the ground. That's basically what our campaign is, and what you can expect if we do get elected into Congress. You know, we're basically going to be organizing with the people on the community. We're not going to just be holding secret legislative meetings. Is that 1 minute left or 2? 1 minute? Yeah. So we're not going to be out there holding secret fundraisers or whatnot, even though we do need money. But you know, as November comes around, it is a huge election. And for API, how awesome would it be if one of our own made it that far? And one thing about being API is you make a name for yourself. We have to do it on our own. And imagine if, you know, one of our most revolutionary radicals was a young green, right? Like, oh my God, someone from outside of the establishment, outside of the two parties, is actually fighting for us and fighting for the change they need. So that's who I am. I'm Kenneth Mejia, and you have my flyer right here. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Kenneth Mejia. I just want to mention that we did also extend an invitation to Representative Jeremy Gomez to come, but we did not receive confirmation from his office.